everybody, by Milton and Gail Miller, in memory of his father, Yaakov Shlomo Ben. Okay. We still keeping in mind Peretz Semach Ben Yaakov Yitzchak and the Bachor Moshe Reuben Ben Sima Tabela. If Sri comes in, comes to us, he'll sit on the other side next to Michael. Right? Okay. Remind me later, we'll have to talk about the Sukkah schedule. Okay? Because no, I know that, but I need the parameter of the dates because I'm going to be away, and I did arrange for somebody right now to cover Chol HaMoed Sukkos. Okay, but I think it's going to be we're going to need.
You're going away Sukkos? I thought you were going away at the end of October.
Yeah, both.
That's a chutzpah.
That's right. You know, I got kids too. I'd like to spend Yontif or time with them.
Here. They can use my apartment.
I'm going to one who lives across the other side of town also.
Okay.
I'm going to see all my kids and grandkids within a month.
All right. Far be it to me to interfere with your family's tranquility.
Okay. So
Ruben's going to be here.
No, he's not going to be here either.
No.
All right. Okay. I want to go just the. Okay, we got over to the top of Ayin Hay is where we stopped yesterday, right? So they add the question there.
We're up to Rebbe Meir.
Yeah, but I'm just quickly, Lo Hakum B'nai Yisrael, right? We said that they took this vow before the public, which was a public vow before the nation, not to harm the Gibeonites. Okay, and then they cite the pasuk, Bekama Rabim, how long was it? Okay, what do it mean in plural? In other words, when you take a public vow, what do we mean by it's done in public? Kamarabim Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar Shlosha. He said in front of 3. Since it says Yamim, that's plural, so that's at least 2. Shnayim V'Rabim Shlosha. Rabbi Yitzchak. Okay, so that's the 4th line down in Ayin Hay. Okay, all right. So Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Asara. He says there were 10. Why? Because Edah K'tiv Baho. Because the word Edah was written in the pasuk. That's where we finished up yesterday. Okay, so we're now going to pick up. Okay, Rabbi Meir Omer says, what does Rabbi Meir say? Kol neder shetzarich hakirat chacham lo yachzir. Okay, citing again what we said earlier. Remember, we had 2 pshatim there. Okay, one about the husband, I'm going to say, thinking that he was not capable of nullifying her vow, and therefore by necessity she had to go to a chacham, and the other was a simpler pshat. In either case, right? Okay. Whether or not
he can do it, or it's a kind of a vow
that's a unique, right? Okay, exactly. All right. So that's the point. So Rabbi Meir said, "Kol neder shetzricha kirat chacham lo yachzir." That kind, let's use it that word. That's that kind of a vow, okay, that required the examination of the sage. He cannot take her back. Okay, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, he says, "Lo asrut." Okay, they did not forbid tzrich ela mipnei she'eino tzarich. Okay, that the reason they did not forbid the one that needed the, okay, that was forbidden, lest it be regarding one who did not forbid. In other words, if the husband didn't know that kind of vow can't be nullified by him.
We don't believe that.
Okay, that's the situation. But my kamiflage, what are they arguing about? Rabbi Meir Savar is of the opinion, Adam wrote we saw this yesterday, that a man is willing to see that his wife is disgraced in front of the court, that she has to appear and have the vow nullified there. Rabbi Elazar Savar, he's of the opinion, Ein Adam wrote okay, that a man does not want to see his wife put in that embarrassing situation. Okay, so you wanted to share something?
I mean, it's hard to get my head around. He'd rather divorce her, which puts her in the position of being a Gerusha, than pressure her to go to a Beis Din to annul her vow. Now that may have made sense then, but it doesn't make sense today.
Right. Okay. Rava Amar, says Rava, Hacha be'isha chashuva askinen. Here we're dealing with a woman. I'm going to read it as an important family. Okay.
Well.
Okay. Askin. Why? Well, that's why I'm using important family here. Okay, because that's the pshat I found. Askina, why? De amar lo necha li de itza bekrovoteha. Because it's not comfortable for me to be forbidden to have some sort of a relationship. I'm going to say, well, that's what I'm going to get to have a relationship with the family. Why? Because in this case, he would be able to marry somebody else in the family, one of the sisters, things like that.
We're going back to the issue of the Kedushin al Tanai,
right.
Whether it's Chol and you need to get, right. Or it's meaningless and there was no marriage.
So, ihachi, if that's the case, safe for the Katani, then the end of our text should have taught, okay, aval hu shehalach eitzel chacham v'hitiro eitzel rofei v'rifa oto mikudeshet. But, it says, okay, where he went to a sage and had the vow nullified, okay, or went to a doctor and was cured, right? Then that's how it should have been phrased. Then it's a valid betrothal. Litne einam mikodeshet. But let's say we teach it that it's not a situation of a valid betrothal, like the second Braita we saw. V'lema hacha ba'adam chashuv askinen. And then we'll say we're talking about a man from an important family, being the potential groom, right? The Amra, because now it's possible we might say that she says, Lo necha li de itza bekrove, that it's not comfortable for me to be forbidden to have a relationship with his relatives. In other words, potentially marry somebody else from his family. Ihi b'chol dahavi nechala. Okay, we're talking with her. Whatever depends on what she's comfortable with. Kidaresh Lakish, as was said by Reish Lakish. Why? Da Amar Reish Lakish, Tov Lametev Tandu Milametev Armalo. It's better that she be as two than remain simply as a widow. Abai Amar says Abai is something different. Okay? The Shum Shamana Gavra, if her husband is as small as an ant, okay? Korse Beharata, okay? She still places her on a seat like a noblewoman. In other words, Ramila.
Okay.
In other words, it's the status of a married woman is better despite whatever the status of her
physical
husband is.
Size of
okay. So the implication here is, well, that could be one explanation.
Well, that's what he means by an ant.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but it goes into that in other examples that could mean more than just physical size. Okay. Why? Because we go on. Rav Papa Amar Dinafsa Gavra. Say her husband is a wool comber, which was a very low occupation.
So the first is physical size. This
could be. That's why I say it includes that, but more than that. Okay, all right. Tikraye b'sife bababa. Okay, she's still called to him to come to the gate. In other words, v'tetav, and come and sit with me at the front of the house. Okay, kind of thing. She's still, again, another example. Okay, another example of women preferring to be married rather than single. Okay. Okay, you gotta.
Rav Ashi.
All right. Rav Ashi Amar says Rav Ashi. But the Kalsa Gavra. Okay, we're saying that he's all right, in this case of a lowly man. Okay, could be again.
Questioning his yichus.
Okay. All right, I didn't see that.
Right, look at Rashi.
Okay. Lo bai tofpache lekedra. That he's not even able to provide for lentils in the pot. Okay, that's why I thought it was more.
You're misinterpreting that.
I'm,
that in any of these cases, the woman is so thrilled to have a husband
yes, there
that
are.
she doesn't send him shopping. That's what it means. Because
I'm sorry.
Boy,
you may have, that may be your shot that you have. I had a different shot. I have a different shot. The Kalsa Gavra, that he's of a lowly person. Okay, low by that he's not able to provide lentils for the pot. Tana, okay, and what happens, and even another example, okay, why are these women happy that they're married despite the physical or economic status of their husbands? Says this Braita, that they are promiscuous, and if they have children, they claim that it's the child of their husband.
What's he called? He's called a beard. That's a term when you're doing something illicit and you have someone that fronts for you. So a gay man will take a woman, to parties. She's his beard.
Called a beard?
That's the Russian name.
I thought a cuckold.
No, that's the activity. The man is a cuckold.
You got it wrong.
He's also her beard. That he can blame the babies on him.
Okay. All right, let's go on. All right. Kol mumin sheposlin. So we have the end of our Mishnah said that those mumim that a woman might have similar to a Kohen, those would be the ones that would render it problematic. Right? That would nullify the Kedushin. Okay? Tana, and we learn as follows. Hosifu alehen, they added to these the following. Zeya, sweating. Versuma, a mole. Vareach hapeh, get bad breath. Vahani, kahani, lo p'slei. But these in regards to a Kohen, they don't nullify. Vahatnan, but aren't we taught elsewhere in another Mishnah? Hazakain, the elderly. Vahacholeh, and the sick. Vahamizuman, and the filthy. Okay, that these are other statuses, right? Okay.
These are for karbanos. If the animal is too old, if the animal is unwell, or if the animal is unusually foul smelling, you cannot use that animal for a korban. And then the Brisa goes on to say, and if a Kohen has those same issues, he can't bring the avodah.
Okay, so that's where Rashi says, "Legabe mume behematnan, because sakadat chazeya v'reich haper da adam bichlal mezuham." Okay, because he's raising the question: aren't these other things contained in the topic of mezuham? Okay, right. So that's Rashi's pshat. Utnan, and we learn elsewhere. Mumin elu.
Those defects in the animal.
All right. Mumin elu, bein kvuin, bein ovrin, whether it is a permanent or a temporary mum, psulin ba'adam. They also will render someone, a Kohen in this case, ineligible to act. Okay. What?
It's a contradiction of what
No, it's adding additional
Yes, so
ones.
now the shaila is, why didn't the Mishnah say that?
Like, in other words, it's adding additional examples of what could be considered mumim. Okay, so if that's the case, if these apply also to Kohanim, are they going to say that they're going to apply to a woman as well? Okay, that's our underlying concept that we're trying to clarify. Okay, Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina. He says as follows: Lo kasha, kan b'zeya overet, kan b'zeya she'eno overet. Here we're talking about sweat that will pass away. In other words, what we'll call for the moment normal sweat from activity. Okay, from a certain activity. Kan b'zeya she'ena overet. And here we're talking about a certain kind of sweat, an odor that's due to an illness. Okay, okay, and that is ongoing. All right, okay. Rav Ashi Amar.
That would make a Kohen.
Okay, all right, and Rav is clearly. All right, and Rav Ashi says as follows: Zeya amizuham ka ramid. Are you comparing? Are you challenging? Okay, the comparison between the sweat and being filthy. Hatam gabe kohanim. There we're talking about regarding the kohanim. Efshar la'avra b'kihua dechamra. It's able to deal with it, I'm going to say, by using wine vinegar. Okay?
As a deodorant.
Okay. Umaria chaper nami. And also regards to the situation of a foul mouth, bad breath. Efshar dekanat pilpala b'pume va'avida voda. It's possible for him to put some kind of a pepper in his mouth, and that will deter the bad odor.
And then he can do the avoidance.
And then he can proceed with carrying out the avoda.
Maybe instead of washing the hands, should have mouthwash and deodorant.
That's by their standard. The wine vinegar was their deodorant,
Right.
and peppercorns was their Listerine.
Right, could be. Aval gabe isha lo efshar. But in regards to a woman, that's not possible. Okay, so let's get to another example that we said. Suma, hi Suma, hechidamia. What about the mole? What are we talking about here? Okay, ida it basear, if it has hair, hacha vahacha pasla, both growing out of the mole on either side, here over there. Okay, then
No, both by the
If
Cohen
there
and
is
by
a
her.
hairy mole,
yeah,
it would
but
disqualify
both the Kohen and the
her.
woman.
Right.
No, the Kohen and the woman.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm saying.
Alcohol.
Here or there. Here,
Right.
okay, one is example is Kohen, one is the example is the
Woman.
woman.
Right.
Almost
Kasla.
right.
Okay, that does it. Idelo id basear. If there is no hair growing from the mole, isuma gedolahi. If it's a large mole, hacha vahacha pasla. Again, here and there. In other words, both for the Kohen and for the woman. Okay, it renders invalid. Okay, isuma ktana. If it's a small mole, hacha vahacha lo pasla. Okay, in both cases, a man, Kohen or the woman, it does not render them pasul. Tanya, as we're taught elsewhere, suma sheyesh base'ar. Okay, shuma that he has this mole that has his hair. Hare zemum. It is considered to be a mum. Ein base'ar, if it does not have any hair in it. Gedola, if it's large. Hare zemum. Then also it's considered a mum. Ktana, if it's small. Ein zemum. It's not considered a mum. So Gemara naturally asks, "Ve'ezohi gedola." What do we mean when we say a large mole? Peresh Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. He says, "Ad ke'isar ha'italki." It has to be the size of a certain coin. Okay, an Italian coin. That was probably about the size of a dime. Some want to suggest.
Yeah, it's 3/4 of a square inch.
Okay, Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Chanin.
Right. Nickel.
Okay, that's even bigger. But omedet al pedachta. So Rabbi Yossi is saying what? The question is, the mole is found on her forehead. Pedachta, on her forehead. Okay, so he says, But if you see it, but if it's on her forehead,
You know,
Ra'a v'nepayesu, he must have seen it and accepted it. Okay? Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, ba'omeret la tachat kippah shel rosha. But it's actually stands there. I'm going to phrase it sort of along the hairline. Okay? Would be a good example that we might say here. Okay? As we all know, some of us have had receding
we'll
hairlines
have a
over the
moving
years.
hairline.
Okay? V'zimnin demitchazeh. At times it's visible. Okay. V'zimnin delo mitchazeh. And at other times it's not visible. All right? What? No, the coin there would be would be considered the size of a large
Of
mole.
a hairless mole.
No, no, doesn't work. Too. Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, ha milta de gavra rabba shamiali min. Okay, this, he said, was something that I learned from a great man. I heard and knew from a new man. Umano, who was it? Rabbi Shela, was Rabbi Shela. Okay, namely, gives the following: Nashka Kelev v'ne'aseh mikomo tzaleket. If she was bitten by a dog, and there was remained a scar as a result of that, right? Hare zemun. That is considered a mun. Okay. Amar Rav Chisda, he says as follows: Kol ava beisha, a deep or a thick voice, okay, on the part of a woman. Hare zemun. That is also
by
a
the
mun.
islanders.
Okay. Shene Amar. Okay, it's possible. Why? Because we suggest the pasuk ki kolech arev umarech naveh. All right, that it juxtaposes the voice with one's appearance in the pasuk. Okay, Tani Rabbi Natan Bira'a. So Rabbi Natan from Bira'a says the following, and that's why I said I'm glad we don't have any women here today at the shiur. Okay, Bein Dadei Isha Tefach. Okay, what about the gap
Between her
right in
breasts.
her breast, right? Sava Rav Acha B'rei de Rabba Kame de Rav Ashi Lememar. He thought to say as follows: Tefach Lema'alyuta. That if it's that, then it's an
That's a good
example of
thing.
beauty. Okay, right? Amar le Rav Ashi, says Rav Ashi Gabe Mumin Tanya. We're talking about blemishes. Okay, Vakama, and what are we talking about? What's the measurement here? Amar Abai Shlosh Etzbaot, 3 fingers. Okay, Tanya, and now a Braita. Rabbi Natan Omer, he says as follows: Kol Isha Shedadeha Gasin Mishel Chavruteha. Any woman whose bosom, let's say, is larger than
Normal.
other women, than her neighbors. Hare zem mum. That is a mum. Vakama, and what do you mean larger? Amar Rav Meyasha, Bar Barei de Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Mishmei de Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. So Rabbi Meyasha is the grandson of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, and he cites as follows: Tefach, more than a tefach.
That the breast is a tefach
Right.
bigger than other women's.
Right. Umi Ika, okay.
Can you really have such a big bosom?
Umi Ika, is that possible? Ki hai gavna, is such a case really possible? And yes, he says, Da'ama Rabba Bar Barchana. He says, Rabba Bar Barchana, Ani ra'iti Aravia achat. I once saw an Arab woman, shehifshila dadeha la'achareha, that
Threw it over her
she
shoulder.
threw it over her shoulder, vehenika et bana, and that's how she nursed her child.
What was he doing looking at her?
No, the kid was in a backpack
Oh.
thing. So she, instead of taking the kid out, she tossed her breast over her shoulder so the kid could reach.
I
Okay.
saw this in the secular history book of this thing, things of this nature. So this in the Gemara has a guzma that, especially in the Arab world, they remember it's only in the West that the breast became this sexual thing. in most of those countries, the birth was just.
They were just.
And even, you're right,
Our
Marty.
yeah, well, they
E-
didn't have our standards of
E-
sneers.
even
which
in-
Western standards are
Well,
based
you
on.
look- You ever
They had,
see-
they,
look in-
the Arabs.
You ever
did.
be in France? But, the breasts are not a separate thing. It's on their money. The stacks is all over the place.
Yeah.
On
And-
the beaches.
Yeah.
No, but not just that. The implication, okay,
They're
is,
just talking about
all right,
Jewish women are not supposed
Okay.
to have humongous
well,
bosoms.
the question is, as society has changed, okay,
Standards may vary.
standards change. If you look at images of art in the Middle Ages, you will see that there was a different standard.
Usually very small breasted.
Okay. Well,
Playboy
okay, no,
standards.
but but those aspects do change in art as a reflection of society standards. Okay. All right. Uletzion yomar ish yolid ba v'hu yichonaneha aliyah. Okay. Okay. So what happens, since we said a statement by the grandson of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, we're going to bring another example. Amar Rabbi Miasha bar Bared Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Echad hanolad ba ve'echad hamitzapeh lirota. The same applies to one who was born or to one who looks towards Zion, and he's called the son of Zion, so to speak. Amar Abai. All right, says Abai, v'chad minayu adif k'trei minim, and one of them is preferred over two of us, he says. Amar Rabba, and Rabba says, v'chad minan kisalik lahatam, and one of us that left and went there, excuse me, adif k'trei minayu, is preferred over two of us. Okay, to remember that there was a certain amount of competition and jealousy between the sages of Bavel and the sages of Eretz Yisrael. Okay, Daha Rabbi Yirmiyah, as the case of Rabbi Yirmiyah, the Chihavahacha, because when he was here in Bavel, Lo haya hava yada mai ka'amre Rabbanan. He didn't even know, basically, wasn't able always to follow the discussions in the base medrash of the rabbis.
In another Gemara, there's a story that they threw him out because he asked the klutz kasha.
Okay. Ki salik lahatam kari lan b'bavlai tipshai. And when he reached there, he called us foolish Babylonians. Okay. Matditin. We get to our new Mishnah. Okay. All right. Hayuba mumin va'oda b'veit aviha. If she had these blemishes and she was still in the household of her father.
Meaning she's an Arusa.
Okay, we're just going to get to that. This is the fact that this is after betrothal, but she's still living in the house of her father. Okay. Ha'av tzarich lahavi raya shemishanit arsa hayuba mumim halalu. The father needs to bring proof, okay, that from the time that these occurred after she had become betrothed, okay. V'nit nistafcha sadehu, and as far as the potential groom goes, his field is flooded. In other words, tough luck. Okay.
What we're talking about here is, does he pay the ksuba when he throws her out? That's the underlying theme.
Well, we'll see. That's one
That's what
shot.
it's talking about.
That's one shot, possible
It's the
shot.
only shot.
No, I can't say it's the only one.
You can't say it's any other shot.
I'm just saying that's one shot. Nichnesa l'reshut habal. Okay, once she enters into the reshus, the domain, okay, of the husband. Habal tzarich lahavi raya she'ad shelo nit arsa hayu bamumin elu. Okay, v'haya mekcho mekach ta'ut. Okay, and then otherwise, okay, the husband has to provide proof,
She's already
okay,
moved in with
that once she's in his domain, okay, that these flaws, okay, were pre-existent, I'm going to say, and that therefore his arrangement with her for the marriage, and therefore the requirement was a mekach ta'ut,
So it's
and therefore he
annulled.
should not have to have the appropriate erusin, and therefore he would not have to pay any ksuba. Okay, right. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's the view of Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim Omrim, but the sages disagree, and they say as follows: B'med Varim Amorim. What are we talking about? B'mamrim Shebesete. We're talking about perhaps blemishes that were hidden, that were not clearly visible. Aval b'mumin shebegalui. But if were she to have had flaws, blemishes that were visible, eino yecholit on, then the husband, okay, cannot make a complaint. He can't make a claim. V'im yesh merchatz, and if there is a local bathhouse, ba'otah ha'ir, in that community, af mumin shebeseter, eino yecholit on, mipnei shehu bodka v'krovotav. Because in that situation, were there a public bathhouse and other women might see this young woman, his family, particularly his sisters or other women in his family, would have seen even those hidden flaws, hidden blemishes, okay? And theoretically would have reported them to him. Okay, Gemara. Let's go on. Tama, what's the reasoning? The maite ha'av raya, that the father has to bring proof. Ha lo maite ha'av raya, but here if the father is not able to bring proof, haba'al mehaman, the husband is to be believed. Mani, according to whom? Rabbi Yoshua. That's according to Rabbi Yoshua. The amar lo mipia anu chayim, who says that we don't rely on her statements.
She's ignored. She can't testify
Okay,
when it happened.
right? Ema Sefer. I would say, what about the end statement? Nichnesa l'reshut ha'ba'al. If she already entered the domicile, okay, the domain of the husband, ha'ba'al tzarich lahavi raya, that the husband has to bring proof. We said of those pre-existing, in other words, pre-nuptial, let's put it that way, okay? Prenuptial blemishes. Okay, Tama, what's the reasoning? Demaite haba'al raya, that the husband also has to bring some sort of proof. Ha, lo maite haba'al raya. Here, if the husband is not able to bring proof, ha'av mehaman, then the father is believed. Okay? Ata'an, the Rabban Gamliel. Then we've arrived to Rabban Gamliel, the Amar, who said, okay, ne'emenet, that then she would also be believed if she claimed, okay, these happened to me after the time I was betrothed. Okay? Amar Rabbi Elazar. He says as follows. Okay. Okay. Omi shashana zo, lo shana zo. Okay. In other words, our Mishnah is disjointed, broken in a sense. Okay. And one who said this, thank you, did
One
not
says you can't don't
says
ask
this,
her, and the
doesn't
other says you do ask.
doesn't say this. Amar Rabba says Rabba, lo tema Rabbi Yoshua. Don't say that it was by Rabbi Yoshua. Lo, right? Lo azil batar chazakah de gufa klal. That would seem to imply that Rabbi Yeshua does not follow after a chazaka regarding the body whatsoever. Okay? Ella, ki lo azil Rabbi Yeshua batar chazaka de gufa. If such that Rabbi Yeshua does not follow after a chazaka regarding the body, okay? Heicha de ika chazaka de mamona. Okay, where is it possible then, okay, to follow a chazaka regarding money? Okay, so here the point could be, one example would be a claim of rape after betrothal. Okay, question is if that's true or not. Okay, does the husband have to pay? All right. Okay, so what happens? Okay. Aval hecha deleka chazaka de mamona. But where there is no chazaka regarding payment, right? Azil Rabbi Yoshua Batar Chazaka de Gufa.
It does.
That's where Rabbi Yoshua follows the chazaka of the body, the Tanya, as we're taught in a Mishnah as follows: Im bahart kodem l'sha'ar laban. I'm sorry, Im baharta kodem l'se'ar laban. Okay, right?
In Baharis case.
Im baharis kodem l'se'ar laban. If we say here that the baharis is a form of
White skin, the white
well,
skin, white.
it's
White
right. Okay,
discoloration.
it's a. I was going to say in the categories of leprosy and psoriasis and all of these things, we're seeing here an example of a change in the color of the skin. Okay, kodem l'se'ar lavan, and if that white area appears before the appearance of white hair, tameh, then the individual is tameh. Im se'ar lavan kodem levaheret. But if white hairs seem to appear before the appearance of the
White.
change in color of the skin, okay,
And she said,
right?
then he's
Tahor. Then the person is tahor. Safek, if there's a doubt, which comes first? Tameh, which we rule tameh. Rabbi Yoshua Omer, he says, keheh, okay, that it has to be a certain brightness or a certain
He's
sharpness
saying
of the
it's too
color.
weak to make
Okay.
it.
That only at a certain point can you, but that statement that he's defining it by shade of the whiteness already tells us that he does follow the practice of chazaka of gufa under certain
Because the
circumstances.
body, nobody
Okay.
was born with psoriasis.
Right? My keha. So what do we mean by that phrase keha, shade of color? Amar Rava keha tahor. That in that case, if it's
Person
not a
remains tahor.
sharp, bright color, then it is only a lighter color, which makes it the person tahor. Okay, Rabba Amar, says Rabba here. Reisha Khan, here, okay, in the father's house, okay, what we're talking about, where the blemishes may have occurred while she was still there, okay? In other words, what we call prenuptial,
No,
pre-betrothal.
timing, it
Okay,
was during
Khan,
Arusa.
Nimtsu Khan, Khan Hayu. Okay, here, maybe we would say, according to Rava, here they occurred, and here that's where they were. Seifa. In the second case, with regards to the husband, Nami here too. Khan Nimtsu, they're found when she's in the domicile of the husband. Vakam and Hayu, and here that's where they were.
It happened.
ATV. But I'll challenge this as Abaye. Nichnesa l'reshut haba'al. Our Mishnah said that when she enters the domain of the husband, haba'al tzarich lahavi raya sha'ad shelo tit'ares hayu bamumin elu. That the husband has to prove up until the time that they became betrothed, there they were the mumim were already present. All right. V'haya mekcho mekach ta'ut. And therefore, for that reason, his financial arrangement, okay, in terms of the whole situation of the marriage, was a improper, in error. Okay.
So she needs no get, and she gets
Right.
no psuka.
Right. Ad shelo titares, up till the time that she became betrothed, and yes, ares. But once she was betrothed, all right, lo, that's not the case. Okay, so therefore, va'amai, all right, so that's why we have this question of she was betrothed, but she was still living in her father's house. That's why that's the shaila. Okay, va'amai, and why is that the case? Lema, let us say the following: Kan nimtza'u, v'kan hayu. Since that's where she was living in the father's house, then that was where they occurred.
That's where they came.
Right? Amarle. And Rava now responds to Abaye. Mishenit arsa, mishum de ikala memar, Chazaka ein adam shoteh bekos af ela im kain bodko. But I can present an issue, an argument, he says, Rava, that when the time she was betrothed, that we might compare it to a situation that we have a chazaka, okay, that a person does not drink from a cup unless he's checked it out in
You
advance.
don't drink water if
Okay.
there are bugs in it.
Okay, so the implication is that likewise, he would have had some advanced knowledge were that to have been the situation with regard to blemishes vis-a-vis this woman. Okay, and therefore we might say, Vahai Ra'ah v'nipayesu, that he would have then, even if he didn't see it himself, he would be aware of
He would
it,
have been aware of it.
right? And therefore he would have accepted it. All right.
And therefore we presume he accepted.
Right. V'hi hachi. Okay. And if that's the case, ad shelo tit'ares nami. But we might apply that even up to the situation of before the betrothal. Also, Ella, rather, here's what we have. Amrina, this is what we say. Okay. This is the assumption that the Chachamim are making under the circumstances. And I'm going to say it this way. Assumption number one. Okay. Chazaka ein adam mefayes b'mumin. That we make an assumption that normally a man does not accept certain blemishes when he's going to marry. Okay? Hacha nami, here too. Chazaka ein adam mefayes b'mumin. Here too, in our case, we might say apply that chazaka that a man
Back to the problem.
that a man doesn't normally accept
Yeah.
a situation where the woman has blemishes. Ella, rather, mishenit arsa, okay, mishum de ikatarte. And here I might say we have actually two chazakas applying. One, that the person doesn't normally accept a woman with blemishes, and two, that we say that a man doesn't drink out of a cup without checking it out first.
So
Those are the
cumulative it means it was his responsibility to get a report.
okay. Chazaka, okay, ha'amad haguf al cheskato, okay, and here we place the body, okay, on this chazaka,
Which is the opposite.
okay. That's, in other words, that we normally assume
People
that
are
usually a woman in approaching marriage ideally tries to either would not have a blemish or tries to deal with it in advance.
get
Okay.
the nose fixed.
Okay. However, the chazaka ain't adam shoteh bekos ela im kain bodko, and we have the other chazaka that says that a person doesn't drink from a cup unless he checks it out first. V'hai ra'av v'nipayesu, and in this case, we would make the possible assumption that he
That
saw
accepted it.
and he would accept it. Mayamart, what are you saying? Okay, chazaka ein adam mefayes b'mumin. Are we really going to say that a man doesn't normally accept the mumin? All right. Okay, what do we say? We say, let's look on tomorrow and we'll pick up there.
Out of a marketing trip.
Okay,
I mean,
okay, there we have 1 verses 2, and that's what we'll talk about tomorrow. Bob, thank you.
You're very welcome.
we had a case.
Sorry, I was so busy.
No, no.
Our next one.